One dividend ETF quietly loaded up on energy stocks, just 1 month before Trump's $4.5 trillion Big Beautiful Bill passed. And now, it's sitting on what could be the biggest passive income goldmine of the decade. While most investors are cheering tax cuts, they're missing the real opportunity. Massive government-backed sector shifts that could make a handful of dividend investing funds explode in value. And this one fund timed it perfectly, almost too perfectly. I'm ready to reveal exactly which dividend ETF just became the ultimate winner from Trump's Big Beautiful Bill, and why the recent March 2025 rebalancing couldn't have been timed more perfectly. But first, let me show you one shocking number that changes everything: 19.4%. Keep that number in mind, because when you see what it represents, you'll understand why smart money is flooding into this one ticker. By the way, all the ETF performance data in this video comes straight from Seeking Alpha. There's a link in the description if you want to dive deeper. They're offering a $30 discount and a 7-day free trial, so you can explore these numbers for yourself. By the end of this video, you'll know which ETFs are positioned to absolutely dominate, which sectors are getting trillion-dollar tailwinds, and why one specific fund is now sitting on what could be the greatest wealth-building opportunity we've seen in years. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not financial advice. Plus, I'll show you the shocking sector data that reveals why this isn't just about energy stocks. There's a completely different industry that's primed to explode. Here's what 99% of dividend investors are completely missing right now. Everyone sees the headlines about tax cuts, but they're blind to the massive sector reshuffling that's happening underneath. Forget everything you think you know about dividend growth, because what I'm revealing changes the entire game. This isn't just about putting extra cash in people's pockets. The Big Beautiful Bill is creating the most favorable environment for passive income streams we've seen in over a decade, but only if you're holding the right funds. Most investors are still thinking old school, oh, tax cuts are good for all stocks. Dead wrong. This legislation creates specific winners and losers, and the difference in dividend growth potential between the winners and everyone else is going to be absolutely staggering. The scary part? If you're in the wrong dividend ETFs, you're not just missing out. You could watch others build financial independence at record speed while you're stuck in the slow lane. Let me break down what this legislation actually does, because the details are where the money is. Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill makes permanent the 2017 tax cuts and adds massive new incentives. We're talking about an average family of 4 seeing $7,600 to $10,900 more annually. But here's where dividend investors need to pay attention. This isn't just consumer spending power. The business side is absolutely massive. The 20% pass-through business deduction jumps to 23%. Section 179. Expensing limits double from $1.25 million to $2.5 million. Most importantly, 100% expensing for new factories and expansions is back. But here's the sector-specific bombshell that changes everything. The bill explicitly mandates massive expansion of domestic oil and gas production capacity, while simultaneously rolling back green energy subsidies from the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. And here's where it gets absolutely wild. Remember that 19.4% number I mentioned? One dividend ETF has exactly that much exposure to energy stocks, while others are sitting at 3%, 5%, maybe 8% energy exposure. This fund loaded up at nearly 20% just before this Goldmine legislation passed. Translation? Energy companies just got the green light to print money, while renewable energy firms lost their government lifeline. Defense contractors get massive new spending for the Golden Dome missile defense system. Industrials benefit from $12.5 billion in air traffic control modernization. This creates the clearest sector winners and losers we've seen in years. And one dividend ETF is positioned perfectly to capture almost all the upside. The ETF Rankings. From warning to ultimate winner. Now let me rank these dividend ETFs from biggest risk to absolute champion, and I'll save the best for last. Trust me, when you see the winner's numbers, you'll understand why smart money is quietly loading up on this one ticker. JEPI, the risky income play. Let's start with the biggest. Disappointment. JEPI has a complex picture, and frankly, it's not pretty when you dig into the numbers. The good news, tech at 18% means Microsoft and Nvidia, as top holdings benefit from R&D expensing and AI manufacturing support. Financials at 14.8% includes MasterCard and Visa at 1.58% each. And here's where it gets interesting. These payment processors benefit massively from increased consumer spending. Every extra dollar in consumer pockets flows through their networks as transaction fees. But here's JEPI's massive problem. Only 3% in energy. While our champion ETF captured nearly 20% exposure to the government's favorite sector, JEPI is practically shut out of the biggest wealth-building opportunity in the market. The double hit? Reduced market volatility from policy certainty could lower option premiums. JEPI's whole strategy depends on volatility, and this bill just reduced a major source of market uncertainty. DGRO, the growth play with one fatal flaw. DGRO focuses on dividend growth, which this bill supercharges, but here's the critical flaw that keeps it from Goldmine status. The wins are real. Financials at 20% and tech at 18% means Microsoft at 2.99% and Apple at 3.02% benefit enormously from R&D expensing. Get this? Microsoft spends $20 billion annually on R&D. Full deductibility instead of 5-year amortization saves them billions in taxes. That's pure profit flowing to dividend growth. Healthcare at 16%, Johnson & Johnson at 2.87%, and AbbVie at 2.67% maintain pricing power with no new drug controls. These pharma giants just got a free pass to keep raising prices and dividends. But here's DGRO's fatal flaw. Energy exposure at just 5.2%. While our champion ETF sits at 19.4%, DGRO is barely exposed to the sector getting the biggest government backing. It's like showing up to a gold rush with a teaspoon instead of a shovel. VYM, the solid choice that's still not enough. VYM takes second place with solid exposure across winning sectors, but here's why it can't compete with our ultimate winner. The good news, financials at 21% means JP Morgan Chase, VYM's number 2 holding, benefits from economic stimulus and no new banking restrictions. Rising interest rates from increased government spending actually help bank margins. That's more dividend income flowing to shareholders. Tech at 13.5%. Broadcom, VYM's top holding at 5.8%. Gains from R&D expensing and manufacturing incentives. These aren't small wins. We're talking about billions in tax savings. But here's where VYM falls short. Energy at only 8%. ExxonMobil at 2.3% benefits from the oil-friendly policies, but VYM's energy exposure is less than half of SCHD's position. The killer? Utilities at 6% face serious headwinds from rising rates and lost clean energy credits. While SCHD loaded up on winners, VYM is stuck with some losers. SCHD, the clear champion, the winner you've been waiting for. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. The dividend ETF that just emerged as the ultimate winner. SCHD isn't just the champion, it's positioned to make early investors very wealthy. And when you see these numbers, you'll understand why Wall Street insiders are quietly loading up. Here's the smoking gun. Energy exposure is massive at 19.4%. That's the number I teased earlier. While other dividend ETFs are sitting at single digits, SCHD committed nearly 20% to the sector that just got trillion-dollar government backing. ConocoPhillips at 4.2% and Chevron at 4.1% aren't just holdings. They're primed to become cash-printing machines. The bill's aggressive oil and gas expansion mandate is rocket fuel for these companies. But here's what will blow your mind. SCHD's March 2025 rebalancing already happened, and the timing is so perfect it's almost suspicious. The fund increased its energy allocation right before this legislation passed. We're talking about companies that now have explicit government support for massive production expansion. Now, let me pause here for a reality check. Of course, nothing's guaranteed in investing, but if this fund's timing isn't pure coincidence, it could be the most brilliant rebalancing in ETF history. Wait, it gets better. Consumer staples at 18.8%. Holdings like PepsiCo at 3.9% benefit directly from increased consumer spending power. When families have an extra $10,000 annually, where do you think that money goes first? Food and beverages. Healthcare at 15.6%. Amgen at 4.0%. And Merck at 3.9% just dodged the biggest bullet in pharma history. No new drug price controls. They keep their pricing power while getting improved R&D expensing. But here's the secret sauce that makes SCHD unstoppable. Its quality screens automatically capture companies with the strongest free cash flow to debt ratios and dividend growth potential. The bill's policies improve both metrics dramatically for SCHD's holdings. This is just the beginning. Wait until you see the hidden sector data that nobody's talking about. The shocking sector data, beyond energy. Now here's the data that will absolutely shock you. Industrials might actually be the biggest hidden winner. And guess which ETF has the best exposure? Hold on to your seats for this. The bill allocates $12.5 billion for air traffic control modernization, massive border security infrastructure, and the new missile defense system. Companies like Train Technologies and SCHD directly benefit from both infrastructure spending and building upgrade incentives. But wait, here's the mind-blowing part that nobody's talking about. Small-cap dividend companies are set to experience a renaissance. The enhanced pass-through deduction jumping to 23% means thousands of smaller companies can finally afford to initiate or dramatically increase dividends. We're looking at a massive pipeline of future dividend growth stocks. And here's what will make your jaw drop. Payment processors are positioned to become money-printing machines. MasterCard and Visa could see transaction volumes explode as consumer spending surges by hundreds of billions. Every swipe, every tap, every online purchase, they get a cut. Speaking of hidden winners, wait till you see the sector rotation that nobody's talking about. Why SCHD just became the ultimate winner. Here's why SCHD isn't just winning. It's perfectly positioned to become the ultimate dividend investing vehicle, and the proof is in numbers that will blow your mind. Perfect timing that's almost suspicious. The March 2025 rebalancing happened right before the bill passed. SCHD increased energy exposure at exactly the right moment. Coincidence? You tell me. Quality screens capture policy winners. Here's what most people don't understand. SCHD's methodology rewards strong cash flows and dividend growth. Guess what the bill enhances for winning sectors? Exactly those metrics. Automatic optimization. You don't need to be a genius stock picker. You don't need to guess which energy companies will benefit most. SCHD's screens automatically identify the highest quality plays and load up on them. But here's the kicker that changes everything. Compound benefits. We're not talking about one advantage. We're talking about higher energy profits, plus lower taxes, plus increased infrastructure spending. That's three separate expansion drivers hitting SCHD's holdings simultaneously. The March rebalancing didn't just reduce exposure to sectors facing headwinds. It loaded up on policy winners like a perfectly timed investment strategy. If you found this analysis helpful, hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. So here's the bottom line. If you're holding the right dividend ETF, you're not just collecting passive income. You're positioned for explosive growth in what could be the most aggressive dividend cycle in a decade. This bill changed everything. Don't sit on the sidelines. Subscribe now and stay ahead as we track the next big wealth-building shift together. All investments carry risk. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Always do your own research or consult a professional.